We are sharing a project called Autolysis that we have developed while in residency at the Goethe-Institut.
This is sort of the beginning of our exploration of this concept of dirty time, which we see as a kind of time machine. And we see dirt itself as a time machine, something that it feeds us and then eats us.
This is our dirty library, which also includes our dirty library hotline. So people can bring us their dirt or mail us their dirt to the Goethe-Institut. And so you'll see that all of these little vials and jars of dirt are labeled with the date they came in and a small note. And people can call up and hear stories about the dirt that has been delivered to us.
We took a dirty walk around the neighborhood and sort of starting with this two concepts. One, this kind of idea of the ground beneath our feet as sort of being both this very concrete thing, but also a sort of recent human intervention in the landscape.
When we came in, we were really focused on the plaster work here.
Part of what inspired us about the space and made us want to do a residency here was this really incredible plaster work. We were interested in kind of thinking about ways that the contemporary representation or ways of relating to the world that might be similar to the plaster, and the kind of decorative art that we settled on was the emoji. And so that's what you see here.
So this is kind of like a key to the frieze that's right above it. And then in this process we also realized that there is no emoji for dirt. So probably one of the outcomes of this project is that we'll try to apply to add dirt to the emoji library. Got really intrigued by the history of the building and the history of the whole neighborhood, and that sort of took us off into all kinds of other directions, I think.
You can also see on the table here in this bucket a piling, which was part of the foundation. So the back bay, which is where we're located right now in Boston, was originally a bay. And so when they filled in the land and made it possible to build more luxury housing, they had to actually drive these pilings down into the ground deep enough to hit solid foundation, sort of beneath the kind of marshy substrate. Those pilings were fine as long as they were completely underwater, but as they started to do some different projects in Boston more recently, the pilings started to dry up in some locations, and so they rotted, and during the last renovation, the Goethe-Institut had to replace the pilings. So this is an example of one of those. Our interest in dirty is where it's this kind of space where things start to sort of decompose and overlap, and it's not a sort of clear and discrete space. It's a very confusing and sort of muddled space.
Above the fireplaces here, we kind of referencing the Jewish tradition, and I think other traditions too, of covering mirrors at times of mourning.
And then the other shroud, in our sort of attempt at thinking about the local landscape, we were really intrigued by Phragmites because it is considered an invasive species, but it also was the sort of reed that grew in the fens and created a kind of safe cruising ground for queer hookups in the past. It is also a really robust wetland plant, and so in a lot of cases it is doing a sort of pretty serious ecological service.
The notion of dirty time, which we kind of uncovered here, is like become this really rich, fertile, ground that we're going to be digging into, kind of literally.
Yeah.
This is our soil temple, and our first project together, we created a dirt bath, which was, it was in a museum in Denmark. People could go behind this wall and take off as much of their clothes as they wanted and splash around in the dirt, sort of the way that birds do when they take a bath. And it was just sort of a way to get people more in touch with the earth again and with their bodies again, and to just get away from this like super clean, super sterile kind of lifestyle we'd all been living with screens mediating everything.
In our other collaborations, we usually collaborate with someone who stops us from following, sort of endlessly following the same idea down a hole. But together we just have been sort of endlessly following an idea down a hole. And the results have been really exciting.
And so this is our dirty temple, our soil shrine.
Soil shrine, yeah. A person can come inside and spend some time with the dirt. But you could also put your face in the dirt.
Oh, it's really nice, actually. It does smell really good. I recommend it. It's very soothing.